Tell us a little bit about the history of MAPS and how you got involved.
Sure. So MAPS has been around since 2012. It came out of a former organization called DAN, Defeat Autism Now. And the idea behind DAN was to bring together practitioners, researchers, and parents to try and find solutions to autism because, we knew very little about what it was, why we were seeing the explosion of it. But DAN sort of fell apart in the late 2000s, and MAPS was a resurrection of DAN, but strictly with practitioners, right? So it's been around. I've been a member of MAPS since 2012, became a fellow of MAPS with the first class of fellows, and I've been the president of the MAPS for maybe the last 3 years. So we're really dedicated towards providing education to practitioners in the integrative management of chronic pediatric illness. That's really what MAPS is all about.
So it started with autism. Do you find that if you have the training in supporting that, you can help a wide range of conditions?
Yeah, well, I mean, treating autism is like treating everything else, right? Find the underlying cause, deal with the toxicity, fix the gut, repair the diet, provide the right nutrition. It almost doesn't matter what syndrome you're using. It's just understanding the particulars of that particular syndrome. So if you look at autism is primarily an autoimmune encephalitis. It's inflammation in the brain caused by immune dysfunction, coupled with most of these kids have a lot of gut dysbiosis, a lot of gut dysfunction, and immune dysfunction. These are the kids that are getting recurrent ear infections, sinus infections, eczema. There's lots of comorbidities associated with autism, and it's because it's all the same problem. It's an out-of-control immune response. So if you understand how to manage that immune system, you're not just going to be able to treat autism. You're going to be able to treat all these other things that we see in pediatrics. Because most of the rise in chronic pediatric conditions has been with immune dysfunction-based problems like asthma, autoimmunity, eczema, and then again, autism, ADD, PANS, PANDAS, all those things.
So, Doc, tell us a little bit about the educational journey for a doctor or a nurse practitioner, and what does it take to get the kind of education necessary that can reverse chronic illness?
Sure. Well, we start with, we do 2 conferences a year, and they're 3-day conferences. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Thursday, for a person that comes to our conference, we're going to put them into basically the first module of our program, which is, we call it Foundations of MAPS. It's definitely not a foundational kind of program, and most people think it's basics. It's not. I mean, you're going to be force-fed from a fire hose, sort of everything we do in MAPS over the course of 6 or 7 hours. We want to overwhelm you. We want you to understand that what we're going to teach you, most people don't know, even if they've been through programs like IFM, like some of these other, A4M, some of these other programs that are out there, that we have sort of a unique approach. Once you do that first module, then there are going to be 6 modules online that you can take at your convenience. All of this is CME based, so you get CME credits for it. And then we have the final module is, again, back in person, and this is case studies. It's MAPS in clinical practice. We want you in person because it's interactive. I'm not just going to be standing up there presenting a case and telling you what I did. I want to know what you would think, what you would do, and, have that kind of interaction. So that's the educational part of it. And then we have people that have been through that. I mean, for many people, that's enough. But to go that one step further, we have people spend 10 hours in a MAPS practitioner's office of their choice.
Okay.
And basically, you now have a mentor that you can interact with to get them completely connected to MAPS. So once you have done that, you then are a fellow of MAPS. So that's that educational journey. But even beyond that, those 3 days, because this Friday and Saturday, these are plenary sessions right now. They're themed, so like last fall it was the GI tract. This spring it's going to be neurology. This fall it's going to be the genomics. So we have that where we bring in multiple lecturers on that one subject. And then on Thursday, for the people who have been through the training, on Thursday, we call it Innovations. It's basically a free-for-all of anything that's new and interesting in the world of integrated pediatrics. So that's the educational thing. And, I'm a big believer in continuing education. I've been in practice for 36 years. I've been to 1 million conferences. I have yet to go to a MAPS conference and not learn at least 5 or 10 new things.
Yeah.
All right. And that's with that kind of experience. So you're always, even once you finish that foundation will give you enough to move forward.
Yeah.
But it's that continuing education piece of it And we try to establish that community in MAPS where it's not just you sitting in a lecture hall and getting educated. You know, I always say I learn more at the bar and in the hall than I do in the lecture hall, right? Because that's where I can tell you, well, really, this is what I'm doing. I can't talk about on stage because of the limitations of CME. So one of the beautiful things about it, it's a family. People will go there and say, wow, that was like the best conference I've been to. And part of it is you eat breakfast together, you eat lunch together, you eat dinner together, we have cocktail hours, we have all these things. So we force the interaction and we tell our speakers, I don't want you flying in, doing your presentation and flying out. We want you there the whole 3 days because I want the attendees at MAPS to be able to interact with you. You know, there's no like, oh, he's, you know, president, you can't go talk to him. I want to be there and be available to people that have questions. And that's one of the things that makes it great. So it's not just education, it's that community.
Wonderful. Well, we'll have all the details on how you can get started on that educational track below. Doc, before I go, I know you've been doing this for a long time in Michigan. My contention here is that if you have this education, there is like an unlimited number of kids that you can work with.
You know, it's always hard to convince practitioners to take that leap from, I'm going to call it corporate, but, you know, being an employee of somebody where you're, you know, seeing patients every 15 minutes and you have all the hoops you have to jump through, to being in your own practice. I can tell you it is so worth it to do it, to be your own boss, but you have to have the faith. I always tell people, you know, if you can, for 6 months, you will have a busy practice. There is so much demand. I have a 6-8 month waiting list, right? And it's not that I'm that special. It's just, I do what I do and there's not that many people that do this. And we need, I always say, you know, we're at war with certain elements like the pharmaceutical industry for the health of our kids. You know, and we need an army of people to defend our kids. MAPS is that army. That's what I tell people. I'm recruiting you. I want you. Right? So.
Well, we want you, and we're going to get into some of the details on how we can build sustainable practice models. But Doc, thanks so much. Appreciate all the work on the front lines.